And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick here with Katie Greifeld, taking you through to that closing bell. It's a global simulcast. We're joined now by Massar and Tim Stenovec. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, television, radio, and our partnership with YouTube here on the 7th day of a rally in the S&P 500. And the biggest gainer, this will be music to your ears, Massar, is an alcohol and wine company, Brown-Forman, leading the charge. Up
Maybe that's one of her gainers today.
Congratulations, Carol. You're keeping this market alive.
You're very welcome. Actually, I'm not really a hard liquor kind of. I'm more like a nice, red wine, nice French red wine. But having said
Aren't
that,
you fancy?
I know, occasionally I am.
Yeah.
Hey, looking at those major equity averages, folks, we're just, kind of hovering near our best levels of the session. So it's interesting to see we've got one more day of trading as this kind of back and forth that there's a little bit more, it feels like, folks thinking that maybe we are getting closer to the end of this war to see these gains as we get ready to wrap up the trade.
I don't know. Oil's still high. WTI.
Off its highs, though.
Still up more than 5%, almost $100 a barrel, above 99 a barrel. Brent up to $97 a barrel. That's up another, today, Katie, 2.7% increase. But like Carol said, off the highs of the day.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we heard from Bob Michael of JP Morgan earlier on Bloomberg Television saying that this market can live with $100 per barrel on oil for a while here. And who knows, that might get tested in the weeks ahead.
Absolutely. And we should point out the weeks ahead also includes a slew of earnings. Earnings season really gets into swing next week with the big banks starting to report. And of course, it's not just about what happened in the past 3 months, but how confident these companies are going to be with regards to providing commentary going forward, given the uncertainty that's still out there on the table. But for right now, it is a time to clap and it is a time to cheer. A 7th day of gains for the benchmark index here in the United States of America. The S&P 500 adding more than 40 points or 0.6%. The Dow adding about 0.6% on the day. The NASDAQ composite is up about 0.8%, and the Russell 2000 adding about 16 points or 0.6%.
All right, green across the screen. Back to the S&P 500. I go about 293 names in the big cap index, Katie, higher on this Thursday. 209, losing some ground, one unchanged.
All right, you take a look at the sector level, a lot of green, a little bit of red. Consumer discretionary was your winner when it comes to a percentage gain, higher by about 2.5% right here in second place. Industrials higher by 1%. Once again, your biggest loser was energy. It's a pretty small chunk of the index overall, but you can see that it was down by 1.2% today. Healthcare also slight losses, Carol, down by about 0.2%.
All right, so let me get to some of the individual gainers, if I may. Let's bring up CoreWeave and Meta Platforms together. 3.5% to the upside for CoreWeave, 2.6% higher for Meta Platforms. CoreWeave, though, rallying specifically as the company struck another much larger $21 billion deal to supply computing power to Meta Platforms through 2013, so deepening its business with Meta that's trying to catch up in the race to build more powerful AI models. CoreWeave will provide AI cloud capacity to Meta from multiple data centers powered in part by NVIDIA's Rubin systems of chips. CoreWeave, by the way, guys, now holds $35 billion in contracts with Meta. So that circular financing seems to continue, it feels like. Moving on over to Intel. This was some outperformance there as well. This one up 4.7% by the close. Company trying to promote the use of its technology in data centers said Alphabet's Google has committed to using future generations of its Xenon processors and other chips. It's a multi-year agreement, and this is really part of a push by Intel to better capitalize on the build-out of AI infrastructure and getting a bigger slice of data centers and their spending, critical to a comeback bid under the company's CEO, Lip-Bu Tan. By the way, Intel, man, it's like at its highest in 5 years. It's up about more than 60% year to date. And thank you, Romaine, for setting me up there. Constellation Brands and Brown-Forman, just going to throw those up together. 8.5% higher on Constellation. Brown-Forman up almost 13%. First of all, Constellation, the maker of Corona and Modelo Especial, excuse me, top gainer in the S&P 500. Don't make fun of me, jumping the most in a year. Earnings last night, investors pinning hopes that the initially disappointing guidance proves conservative. Execs pointing out fiscal 2026 ended on a positive note with momentum continuing into March. And then, as Romaine said, Brown-Forman rallying on a report in the Wall Street Journal that Sazerac has recently approached Brown-Forman, the maker of Jack Daniels, about a potential deal, according to folks familiar. Keep in mind, Brown-Forman has been talking with Francis Pernod Ricard.
The belle of the ball.
Which one?
Brown-Forman, maybe.
Ah.
Yeah,
Must be nice.
Bottoms up, everybody.
Okay, let's get to decliners. Remember we used to talk about all the time, we talked about software under threat from AI. Well, that's back in the news now with the iShares Expanded Tech Software Sector ETF down 3.9%. We're talking about companies like Microsoft, Palantir making up a good portion of this ETF. They fell on Thursday amid concerns about disruption from AI services. Keeping an eye on that back in the news again. Also, a couple of companies on our radar today include Flutter Entertainment and DraftKings. Flutter, the parent company of FanDuel. Both of these companies fell today. The sports betting stocks, as lawmakers in Ohio considered legislation that they would limit which kinds of sports wagers could be placed and eliminate mobile betting entirely. That's according to multiple media sources, including NBC4. Flutter fell by 3.9%. DraftKings fell by 7%. Under the proposed legislation, Ohioans would not be allowed to place prop bets, in-game bets, or parlays. That's according to NBC4. And the worst performer in the S&P 500 saw some late selling today. Texas Pacific Land Corp. Shares down on the day by more than 15%, round that up to 16%. This after the death of Murray Stahl, the CEO of its largest shareholder, Horizon Kinetics Holding Corp., was announced this today. Horizon Kinetics owns close to 15% of Texas Pacific Land Corp., held shares since the 1980s. Stahl argued the company's business model would increase the stock's value over time. Texas Pacific Land Corp. has about 900,000 acres in West Texas. They use different land for different projects, including Bitcoin mining, renewable power projects. Companies like Alphabet and Amazon have expressed interest in the land as well.
All right, let's take a quick look at yields. This is one of those days where what you see on your screen really doesn't tell the whole story. Modest moves to the downside in yields on the shorter end of the curve. Modest moves to the upside on the longer end of the curve. But there was a ton of volatility, and it was really because of a wide range of issues. You had a Treasury auction today that moved yields around. You had a lot of comments coming out about the situation going on in the Middle East, specifically with regards to Israel and Lebanon. That bounced yields around as well. Right now, you have a bit of stasis here, a little bit different, a much different story than what we're seeing in the equity market, where we continue to see that rally going. In the bond market, a bit of indecisiveness as a lot of people still trying to assess what comes next in the situation in the Middle East.
Well, yeah, exactly. And they'll certainly be watching what comes out in the morning, right? That inflation print. So that'll be important, too.